The sun was dipping low over the rolling fields of Willow Creek, Tennessee, casting a golden haze across the sorghum rows on a late April evening in 2023. I was elbow-deep in the engine of my family's 25-year-old Massey Ferguson tractor, racing against the clock to finish planting before the spring rains hit. This wasn't just a machine, it was the heartbeat of a fifth-generation farm, the kind of legacy that binds you to the dirt like roots to soil. But then came the screama, piercing wail that shattered the dusk. "Your tractor's ruining my mindfulness retreat vibe," shrieked a woman named Eleanor, her pristine yoga pants glaringly out of place in the mud. She stood at the edge of my field, phone in hand, already dialing a tow truck. I froze, wrench in mid-turn, as she chained my tractor to a rickety tow hook like it was a stray bike. She didn't know she'd just declared war on the wrong patch of earth. Eleanor stormed into our quiet corner of Willow Creek like a tornado with a clipboard. A shiny new sign had sprouted overnight at the intersection of Maple Hollow Road and Route 17, proclaiming Tranquil Meadows HOA on a post hammered into someone else's oak tree. Hoa! Out here, we had combines, goats, and gravel roads, not homeowner associations. My land, held by the Carter family since 1890, wasn't part of her suburban fantasy. She called it a community vista. I called it my livelihood. Her first visit came at dawn, catching me hauling seed to the north field. She marched up, reusable tumbler in hand, nose wrinkled like the smell of fertilizer was a personal attack. "I'm Eleanor, president of Tranquil Meadows," she announced, as if that meant anything. She claimed my tractor, parked temporarily by the fence, violated her made-up Serenity Code. I told her politely that her HOA was as real as a unicorn and that my tractor had more claim to this land than her store-bought lavender bushes. She flashed a smile sharp enough to cut glass, said she'd fix it, and left. I didn't think much of it until the tow truck rumbled in undersized, wobbly, and clearly not up for the job. The driver looked baffled, scratching his head as Eleanor waved her arms like she was directing a parade. I shouted that if she touched my tractor again, her Tesla would end up in my compost pile. She gasped, clutching her pearls, and accused me of threats. The driver hesitated, but Eleanor bullied him into trying. The cable snapped taut, and the truck groaned, but my Massey Ferguson didn't budge, an iron giant rooted in defiance. My cousin Nate, filming from the barn, yelled that she was trespassing on private property. Eleanor screeched that he had no right to record her. The tow truck gave up, tires spinning in the dirt, and Eleanor stomped over, demanding I remove that eyesore or face her wrath. That's when I pulled a piece of chalk from my pocket, circled her Tesla in the soft, tilled earth, and said I was marking her donation to this year's crop. Her face twisted in horror. I called Nate to grab the irrigation hose and dragged out a sack of zinnia seeds. Neighbors started pulling up, lawn chairs in tow. Sipping iced tea like this was the county fair. I tossed seeds over her hood, careful not to scratch the paint, while Nate misted the ground. A neighbor plopped a ceramic frog by her tire, and another added a pinwheel. It was chaos, beautiful, defiant chaos. Eleanor lost it, ranting about lawsuits and soil misuse violations. I asked which page of her fake rulebook banned creative landscaping. She dialed 911, but the dispatcher, my cousin Lila, knew the score. Deputy Tom Rollins arrived, took one look, and asked Eleanor for proof she owned the land or had a legal tow order. She waved a stack of printouts from some online HOA template. Tom handed them back, saying, "Ma'am, you're trespassing on a working farm. Be glad he's only planting flowers." Eleanor's Tesla sank deeper into the mud, a self-inflicted wound from parking on fresh-tilled soil. The neighbors, now passing around lemonade, debated which blooms would suit her car best. By the time a proper tow truck hauled it out, Nate's video of a showdown titled City Snob vs. Farmer's Tractor was blowing up online. Slow-motion clips of Eleanor flailing as zinnias bounced off her windshield went viral. But I knew this wasn't over. She declared war in planting season, and I had acres of dirt and a community ready to fight. The next morning, a drone buzzed over the barn like a vengeful hornet. Nate sprinted out, yelling that Eleanor was back with air support. She stood at her self-proclaimed HOA border, now marked with laminated signs reading, "Tranquil Meadows. No farm equipment allowed." One was nailed to a century-old Carter fence post. Another was taped to my mailbox. She'd recruited a sidekick, Agnes, a retired meter made with a whistle and a grudge against anything louder than a Prius. They scribbled citations for excessive machinery visibility and odor violations from my compost. I shouted across the field, asking if they'd forgotten the rooster noise ordinance. Eleanor ignored me, live streaming to her 42-follower HOA page, declaring me a menace to progress. I drove to town to see Sheriff Rollins, who was still chuckling over the viral video. He confirmed Eleanor had filed complaints for agricultural vandalism and community defiance. I showed him photos of her signs and drone footage of her slapping stickers on my fences. He promised to document it for potential harassment charges. Back home, I found Eleanor's Tesla parked deeper in my field, surrounded by stakes and wildflower seeds she'd scattered in a delusional bid to beautify my land. Agnes, in a safety vest, blared new violations through a megaphone. I'd had enough. With Nate's help, I hauled hay bales, a scarecrow draped in Eleanor's HOA flyers, and a sack of birdseed to her staked-off zone. We built a display around her car marigolds, trellises, and drip lines, turning it into a living garden. Chickens perched on her mirrors. The internet ate it up. Zinnia Gate trended, with memes of Eleanor battling sunflowers to banjo tunes. Local kids sold "Don't Tell My Tractor" shirts. But Eleanor escalated, filing a lawsuit claiming defamation, property damage, and floral-induced trauma. My cousin Mara, a county clerk, helped me countersue for trespassing, harassment, and attempted equipment theft. Then we uncovered her real plan, rezoning our farms for condos and juice bars. She'd been lobbying the county board behind our backs. Furious, we formed Keep Our Roots, rallying neighbors to pack the zoning meeting. Eleanor pitched her vision with foam board models of yoga studios. I countered with a video montage of her antics-dough attempts, chicken arguments, and tulip rants. The board rejected her proposal unanimously. The crowd cheered, and someone brought a tractor-shaped cake. But Eleanor didn't quit. She hired a shady landscaping crew to sabotage my fields cut pipes, trampled crops, flipped compost bins. We caught them on trail cams and set up floodlights and patrols. The community rallied, holding a Zinnia Stand festival to guard the farm. Finally, I built the Garden of Defiance around her abandoned Tesla vans, placards, and a path telling her story. Tourists snapped photos. Artists painted murals. Eleanor's last-ditch lawsuit against me and the county collapsed in court. The judge called her HOA a fraud and ordered her to pay all fees, saying she'd failed to plant roots in a thriving community. She vanished, leaving her car to bloom in my field. Months later, a letter arrived from a distant suburb. "You won, but you taught me control isn't progress. It's loneliness. Keep the flowers." I tucked it away unspoken. The Tesla stays, a monument to defiance, draped in seasonal blooms. If it ever makes the state fair, I'll tow it with that same tractor she tried to take. Full circle. What do you think? Was I too harsh, or did Eleanor deserve every petal? Should newcomers adapt to rural ways, or do they have a right to push change? Drop your thoughts below, hit like, and subscribe for more stories where the roots fight back.